All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us from. It is such a pleasure to be here with you. It's morning where I am. Welcome, and we are live. We are live. So just give us a second. Let us do some introductions, and we'll get right into it. All right. Welcome, everybody. Again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're joining us from. We have an amazing person in the house today. But I am going, before I bring him up, we're just going to do some introductions. So, welcome to the Career Readiness Essentials program by the Topin Academy. Today is our live mentorship session with a very distinguished personality. So, before we just delve right into that, CREP is a professional development program by the Tolkien Academy. It is a cohort based online learning program for entrepreneurs, African graduates, entry level employees with essential workplace skills. That's to equip them with essential workplace skills. So our secondary targets include different people, corporations, HR firms, and the rest. Literally everybody who wants to level up in the professional space in the 21st century. CREP is a 30-day intensive career acceleration program designed to equip participants with the skills, mindset, and tools required to succeed in today's competitive workplace. It bridges the gap between what you were taught in school, that's education, and employability by focusing on the practical, real world competence needed in today's workplaces. Prep is not a random course, it is structured transformation. And so today we will be having our facilitator, our mentor, share with us on the faculties that he's taking us on. And just before I bring him on, so just before I bring him on, you can see this is the mentor's profile. Dr. Emmanuel Alexander is a Nigerian Air Force officer. Let me put him on. He's already here. He's already here, but let me just read the bio again. So Dr. Alexander is a Nigerian Air Force officer, a researcher, a strategist, security chevening alumnus, and best-selling author. The Mirror I Am marks his sixth book. His historical epic Scarlet won the 2021 Book House Reader's Choice Award for Book of the Year. Dr. Alexander also mentors emerging leaders and champions excellence as a core life philosophy. And just before I go on and bring him on to go on with faculty 2 and 3, personal and corporate efficiency, critical thinking, and problem solving. I would like to say that Dr. Alexander is one of the senior people that I have had, my what I call a senior friend, that I have had the opportunity. Life has honored me with, and I met him, I think in 2024, and it was absolutely a pleasure. It was so exciting. He has profound insight. I don't want to talk too much. I just want to leave you in his hands, right? So I'm going to be bringing up squadron leader Alexander Emmanuel of the Nigerian Air Force, and I want the comment section to be filled with clapping. I want all of us to do an ovation. I know we can't do a standing ovation right now, but I want for all of us to do a digital ovation because he's deserving of it. Just before I bring him up right now, okay, so you can see this is him, and I'm just going to go ahead and bring him up right now. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for honoring our invitation. And I'm going to yield the floor to you at this point. But Emmanuel, are you there? Can you hear us?
Yes, I am. I am very much here.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
okay. Can you confirm if I'm up yet? I'm not sure I can see from the
Yeah,
stream.
we can't see you, but we can hear you.
Okay. Do we need to fix that before I begin?
I think it's probably the network, and I think you can just go. Hold on, let me take you off and then bring you back on in a second.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so I think it's a network thing, but I'm really glad that we can hear you. So I'm just gonna ask that you go ahead and start. I'm sure it's going to yield before we get into the main thing, so that we can just get started and I can go right on with the technical work on my end. I'm just here, just guide me as you need me to go. Thank you so much. Can you hear me? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think network is having I think network is having its own thing. Okay, so while waiting for, can somebody let me know that I am audible in the comments? Let me know that you can hear me. Okay, so I'm audible. Amazing. Amazing. I'm audible. All right. So I think that network is a little bit of a glitch on his end. So we're just gonna wait for him to join us. So give him a second. Okay, so I think he's having a network challenge, and um, we're just going to give me a second. please. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to go ahead and do the introduction while waiting for him to join. We're just going to check in to be sure that everything is okay on the back end. So give us some seconds. Thank you. Okay, so while waiting for his network to get better, I'm going to do his introduction, right?
Someone whispered to the sun that, hey, today's event got. It's usually.
So let me know that you can see the screen and let me know you can hear. Let me know that it's audible. Is it audible? No, no, no. Let me know that you can. Let me play. So I'm gonna play before I make it expanded. Can you hear the audio? I'm gonna play right now. So leave a comment for me. I can hear the audio. I can see the video.
Sunny in Abuja, but I think today someone whispered to the sun that, hey, today's event got something to do with you. And so it showed up with all its radiance as we gather not just to celebrate the launch.
I need somebody to comment. Can you hear the audio and can you see the video? Yes to both. Awesome. 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 Okay. Okay.
Nita, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. We can hear you. Welcome back, sir. We're just trying to play your introduction
Okay.
video. Yes, so I'm just going to go ahead with that. Sorry, Abuja, but I think today someone whispers that, hey, today's event got something to do. All right, guys. Here we go.
It's usually sunny in Abuja, but I think today someone whispered to the sun that, hey, today's event got something to do with you. And so it showed up with all its radiance as we gather not just to celebrate the launch of a book, but to witness the birth of a story that takes us to the very edge, the edge of the sun.
Yeah, thank you
Amazing.
so much. Yeah, I hope everyone can hear me now.
Yes, yes, yes. We can hear you. We can hear you. Please go right ahead.
All right. So it's so good to be here. So excited to be a part of today's session. Nita has done a lot of introduction already, and I also saw the responses from the chat area. Very, very impressive. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the warm welcome. I feel relaxed and I feel motivated to be a part of this gathering today to share my knowledge, to share my experience. And the whole idea is to see that we're able to impact more lives. We're able to um, bring about transformation. We're able to, make people see, shape their perspectives and see reality, from the winning angle. So such kind of meeting, I see it as an opportunity to share these experiences. So thank you for the introduction too. I think you've said a lot. I also watched the video. The video was during my launch, the launch of my latest novel sometime last year, Edge of the Sun. It just shows you how much success we had during the event and tells you also, give you an idea of what I do. Of course, you would have seen that I'm a military officer and I'm also a professional writer, which are critically the two major things I do. Other things I do include research. I do a lot of research work. I do mentorship. Events like this, I'm able to use it to interact with younger people and also draw knowledge from the happenings of today. So this is me, Alexander Emmanuel. You just met me a while ago. So I'm a soldier. I'm also a poet. So I do all of this together. So today I'll be sharing with us. Nita, can you confirm everyone hears me? I need to be sure we are on this together.
Yes, yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah. So I'll be sharing something on what I title the indispensable professional. And when we talk about the indispensable professional, we are talking of whatever career you're involved in, whether in business, you're a student, you are a 9 to 5 career person. We're saying that you can make yourself that person that is indispensable, and that means that somebody that cannot be done without. So you're somebody who has the voice, who have the unique experiences, who have the unique personality to be a master in your industry or in your craft, depending on what you are involved in. So for the subtitle, I call it Growth Through Decision Making, Execution, and Productivity. So Nita, you can take us to the next 2 slides after this. Okay, yes. So defining the terrain. So we're talking about growth through decision making, through execution, and through productivity. So first, it's important we're able to define what the operating area is. Now, what is the operating area? I mentioned a while ago, it refers to the industry or the sphere where you operate from. So to the next slide, please. So this screen shows you what I do. I am an Air Force officer, and the Air Force is in the business of flying, and I'm also a poet. So this tells you for an Air Force officer who's somebody who is in the military, what is very critical to you, it's about time. It's about the kind of choices you make real time, how you're able to solve problems to meet with operational requirements. So you all have an idea of what a battle environment is. It's a very fast paced, it's a very demanding environment that requires quick decision making, that requires that any decision you take could affect the life of your troops and also endanger your own safety yourself. So this tells you that within a short time, you have a responsibility to be able to go through the entire decision-making loop to make the right decision, because that decision would influence a lot of things. A lot of factors are dependent on the choices you make as a leader within this kind of terrain. Then as a writer, how does these variables I mentioned a while ago, how do they influence, how do they affect the output of my work? So as a writer, especially a fiction writer like I am, that requires a lot of imaginative work, that requires you, functioning in the realm of the metaphysical, where you're trying to think absurdity, you're trying to go beyond even your personal experiences to think about the possibilities of humanity, of how people can exist even in this real world and even in space. You begin to think of how words matter, how words matter, how every word can lead to building a character, how every word can contribute to a plot, how every word can influence the end of your story, the outcome of your book. So all of these things are important. So it takes you through that decision-making loop, and that takes you to the execution that measures the productivity and then the culminated point, which is growth itself. So if you see on the last line, it says converting whatever you do, irrespective of the job you do, what matters is about how you're able to convert raw intention into measurable impact across any field. So you could be a student. How do you convert your motive of being there into tangible results? You could be an entrepreneur. How do you convert everything that your objectives, how would you convert your plans? How will you convert your goals? How will you convert all these things to what? To products that are measurable. So this tells us that we are all bound by one thing, irrespective of what we do. That is why it's important we define the terrain clearly. You need to define, where do I function? Am I a writer? If I'm a writer, what are the demands for my writing? If I'm a student, what are the demands being a student? If I'm an entrepreneur, what are the demands within this industry? So it's important that we understand the terrain we operate in. This will shape how our perspective on how we make our decisions, how we execute, and how we produce. The next slide, please. All right, so I'll just take a while to take us through these four variables: the variables of decision making, execution, productivity, and growth. It's important that we lay a foundation that will help us understand what we're doing today and to see their interrelationship. So for decision making, I just explained it in short. I said it's choosing the right action among options. It's important you pay attention to the keywords there, amongst options. That means before you make a decision, there are several options to you. You may have, before you went to school, you'd have been thinking of, what course do I want to study? What do I want to be? What do I want to be in life? You ask yourself certain questions. Before you go into business, you're asking yourself, what type of business do I want to get into? So there is a process of thinking. There's a process of examination. There's a process of reflection, contemplations you're trying to figure out. So this is how the brain works. It takes you to that loop of brainstorming. It takes you from chaos, redefining, and then it brings you to that path where you have clarity to be able to make a decision. So if you ask yourself today why you are where you are, it's a product of a lot of contemplations. When you were younger, what you thought to be, later environment changed it, either social influence changed it. You wanted to be a doctor, now you're in theater arts as a result of different reasons, So at every point, we are faced with defining this reality. So that's what decision making tells us. So it also says it's the quality of choice that determines trajectory. So it is the choice you make that will influence every other thing. So that is why decision making is very important. I hope everyone hears me.
Yes, we can hear
Hello?
you. Yeah, we can
Okay.
hear you.
All right. Thank you. So the next is execution. So execution talks about converting choices into tangible results, converting choices. So at the realm of decision making, one thing you come out with, it's a choice. After the contemplations, after the reflections, what comes out is that you make a choice. So a choice is a product of decision making across a range of different options available to you. So first, there are options. Next, you make a decision by making a choice. And that choice presents you to the phase of execution. So what do you do with that choice? It's very important. What do you do with that choice that you have made? If you have decided that you want to go back to school, what do you do with that information? Does that information die with you right there, or you're taking tangible steps to see that you bring that choice to fruition? So that is the path of execution. So it defines as converting choices into tangible results. That means things you can see, you can feel, you can measure as an outcome. So say it is powered by what? Speed and discipline. That means how fast you're able to execute a choice will determine the success of from the loop of options, decision making, choice, and reality. So that is how they are interrelated. Then it takes us to, from the execution, what does execution birth? Execution births productivity. That means it's able to transform that thing into what you can measure. So productivity talks about, it refers more to measurement. If you add one, if you want to, for instance, you want to, well, I say you want to arrive at getting an answer. First, you add one and one, it gives you two. So that two is what you've produced. It is measurable. You can see it. It is tangible. It is something. If you take another cycle of decision making and execution, you can see that you've moved from point A to B. So productivity has a lot to do with measurements of accumulated execution or actions taken. So in all of this, the exponential, or what I call the compound interest, is growth. So growth is the reflection of what people see, what people can see. They can say this man has increased, this man was one time here, he has moved here. So it is an accumulation of all of this together over a long period of time. So it's I make this example most of the time. I said when you sleep at night, your hair is growing, you may not observe it, but before you know, a week, you could tell that, oh, there's been this, increase. So that is how growth works. So it just tells you the sum total of all actions taken, of everything you've produced, whether product, whether service, whether decision or choices, how it reflects, and people can see that there's been a movement from point A to point B. The next slide. All right, so this, I call this the momentum flywheel. And why is it called this? This tells us, from what I explained earlier, so when you start an action from the place of decision making, it naturally takes you to execution. After execution, it naturally takes you to productivity. And after, it takes you through growth. So it works like a flywheel. What does a flywheel do? A flywheel, you strike. Once you put all the programs in place, it becomes a system that works, and the inputs will eventually bring the output. So we must understand this curve clearly in whatever we're doing. Because if you have just made a decision, you've not executed it, you don't expect to produce anything, and there wouldn't be growth. So this is what this momentum flywheel explains. Let's move to the next slide. All right, so now we're going to focus on decision making as a variable for growth. So I need us to pay critical attention at this time, because I'm going to explain certain things that some may be new to you, some you might be familiar with, but the explanation and based on the experiences I will share will give you more light in those areas. So I'm going to take you through scientific, time-tested principles that have worked. And it's important that you should know that these are not fixed. They are just models you can leverage on, okay? Your reality might be different. Your pace might be different, but these principles are things you can leverage on, modify it to your own reality, and you're able to make the biggest results of your life. So please move to the next slide. All right. So I'll first introduce you to what I call the 70% rule. Now, it's important we pay attention to this. Very important. Now, the 70% rule, if you will see the first line, it tells you calculated risk, and it tells you perfect status. What does this tell you? It tells you that. It just tells you about what we call the decision-making threshold. Write that down. Decision-making threshold. That means at what point do you make a decision? At what point along the decision-making curve, at what point do you make a decision? Now, the 70% rule tells us that when we have 70% information, when we have 70% confidence, we can make a decision. How does this apply? I'll tell you how the human mind works. Now, in physics, there's what we call inertia. Inertia tells us about the reluctance for a person or for a thing
to start a motion and the reluctance or for a thing or a person to end an emotion. Now, this cuts across every form of human behavior. For example, the person that wants to become a hemp smoker, at a point might be an amazing guy, and he would have been faced with choices, would have contemplated. That point of contemplation is inertia to start. Now, when it begins with that habit, you'll find out that when it becomes addicted, winding down, there's also another struggle to wind down. This also happens to us when we want to make choices in life. It is called, beyond reluctance, it is called the hesitation for actions. This could be positive because that is how the human mind is built. It could be positive if you use that time to reflect, to clarify before you take steps. But unfortunately, most people, they struggle that time, because that time also opens opportunities for laziness, for procrastination, for poor choices. So because at that point of inertia, you could just dream, I want to start going to the gym every day. You wake up in the morning, there is the struggle because a scientist once explained, they said the human mind is naturally lazy to start and sustain anything. If you had your time, you want to sleep in bed all day. When you wake up in the morning, that's when, it's like the sleep is sweetest, But because systems are in place and you know that you need to go to job because that's where you need to eat. So your motivation to go to job is because you need to eat, not because you have trained or built the character of overcoming inertia. So this brings us to the 70% rule, which tells us that if you are able to master these rules, you will overcome inertia seamlessly. Now, how do you overcome this? You're able to do this when you have clarity. 70% is enough. For example, you're thinking of starting a business. You don't need to know everything about the business. If you're able to do research, if you're able to make inquiries up to 70%, this rule tells you start. The remaining 30%, though it constitutes some aspects of risk, as you start, you get clarity with time. And that clarity helps you to refine, it helps you to adjust, it helps you to modify, to be able to perfect it to 100%. I'll share an experience with you. Okay, there's what I do as a military officer. I am very passionate about studying, and because of that, I developed a principle for myself, and it's related to the 70% rule. I told myself as a very young officer, this about, let's say, 18 years ago, I told myself something. And what I told myself was, anywhere I'm posted to, I'm going to acquire a higher degree. Anywhere I'm posted to, I'm going to acquire a higher degree. And when I go to these places, the rule I had was, I'll rather start and fail than never start at all. Now, I'm aware clearly that the nature of my job does not give me the luxury of time. I could be transferred to a place and I could be moved out in 6 months. I could be moved out in 2 weeks. Highly volatile. But I had made this choice, and that choice guided my steps. The first master's I did, I was in a war zone, and it was full-time. But I told myself I was going to start. So that is the 70% rule. When I had clarity that I needed this degree because I had a foresight of what I want to do in the next 10 years, I told myself in the next 5-10 years, I'm going to acquire a doctorate degree. All the realities doesn't favor me to achieve this. I couldn't see the 100%. I couldn't tell that I will be here for the next 4 years, for the next 2 years to complete this master's. I'm talking of an environment that is highly volatile, not as flexible as the civil environment. This is an environment where you do not make your choices. This is an environment that you need to function within the dictates of the system. But I also understand that we are social beings. Within systems, we must build areas of navigation, how we navigate through a system as social beings. If you know man's history of man, it's about survival. Whatever environment you throw him in, the first instinct is survival. So I was able to build this principle. Once I get 70% clarity, this is what I need. I started. I got my first master's. Today, I'm going to be having my fourth master's. And that's because as I move from point A to B, I told myself that, and that 70% rule has worked for me. So in cases where I'm transferred before, maybe I stay 1 year, I'm transferred. Because already I've achieved certain things, maybe I've achieved the first year of coursework, I'm able to navigate this from wherever I am. I'm able to, which office I am, I'll make sure I do the things I need to do. I'm able to take permission from my boss, make a concessional request, and I'm able to travel to get this. It was very time consuming. It was costly and all of that, but I was determined because the 70% rule gave me clarity. This is what I wanted. And the energies and the requirements to achieve that came to bear. And I was able to achieve all of this. And I got my doctorate. So this is how these rules work. So in anything you want to do, the summary for this is once you have 70% information, 70% clarity, 70% confidence, take and make that decision. So that is the rule for the 70% decision-making threshold. Let's move to the next. All right, so there's also, this will help you. It's called the decision-making loop. Now, I just explained what the decision-making threshold is. They are all interrelated. This is very common for military service. There are 4 stages. They are called the OODA loop. This was developed by an American pilot, highly experienced, that had fought several wars and was able to bring up this principle. And it is the guiding principle for various military training. It's a decision-making circle, basically. So it tells you the OODA, the O is the observe. Observe, it's being aware of your environment. In your environment, in this case, is what is your reality? Which community do you live? What are the opportunities in this community? What kind of job do I need to do? What course do I think of doing? What kind of business? So you first do an analysis of your environment. You take a mental scan of your environment. This is observe. Then orient. The orient phase is where you're able to analyze. You're able to reflect on everything you've identified within your environment. Now, I'll teach you something. When you talk about environments, you must be able to scale them, categorize them. It will help you in critical thinking. For example, what are the types of environments you have? You have the social environment. You have the economic environment. You have the social environment has to do with your friends, your relationships, your family, and all of that. The economic environment, what kind of businesses operate around here? What are the business opportunities? What are the financial opportunities? This is an environment. Then the physical environment. How is this place? Is it a deserted area? Is this a maritime area? You think about all of this. Then there's the spiritual environment. What are your belief systems? What are your values? What is your attitude to life? So these are various environments. You must be able to box your realities inside them so that whenever you're making contemplations, you are going to do them across these realms. So it will help you in the face of unrent, because in this phase, you will do your analysis rightly. So the unrent phase helps you to do your analysis based on previous experiences and based on what you've seen and observed in your environment. Then that pushes you to the curve of decide. So at this point, you decide. Remember, after you decide, what's the next thing to do in our loop? You act, you execute. So after you've decided, so the core of this OODA loop is orient, where you're able to what? Reflect, moderate, sort, contemplate, and make a choice. So it helps you at the decide, you make a decision and you act. So this is how a pilot in the cockpit, this is how he operates. If he's going to achieve a target, in his mind, what is going on? He observes his environment. His environment in this case could be his it could be his digital environment because he has a lot of systems he's working with. It could be the outside the cockpit. What is the terrain he's operating? Is it a desert area? He thinks about is that he also reflects on what is the nature of targets I'm going to, what kind of enemy am I dealing with? Is there an enemy that is very non-conventional? What kind of tactics? So in the military balance, this is how the mind works. So this is also applicable in your normal life to go through this decision-making loop and make the right decisions. Now to the next. Yeah, so far, we're still on decision-making. And decision-making is actually the center of everything because that is like where everything is processed before you act. So it's important you understand how your mind works. So I'll take us through what we call the amygdala hijack. This is psychology, this is biology, this is chemistry. Now, how does the human mind work? The amygdala, you know what it does in your body? It helps you respond to flight, to fright, and to freeze. So at this point, the human mind and brain is built that when you feel threatened, when you sense, that's what the amygdala does. It senses your environment. Once it notices any threat that will cause you harm, it acts ahead of your thinking brain. Now, the amygdala, in simple terms, I'll explain, is your emotional brain. So you have the emotional brain, you have the thinking brain. The thinking brain is the cognitive part of the brain that has reasoning. So the amygdala doesn't have reasoning. It functions by emotions. And it is built for a purpose. For example, if you are in a place where there's a fire outbreak, it doesn't require you to use your thinking brain. Amygdala will respond by making you run away. If you've been in that situation, you remember that when someone tries to slap you and you move back, you didn't think it. Harm was coming. You did not think, you did not process it. You just, you dodge. So that is what the amygdala does. It's meant to help you. It's a safety mechanism. But on the flip side, it also has a lot to do with how you manage decision making and how you manage your mind and your well-being. Now, because it is built to respond to threats, it also misinterprets. It misinterprets stress. When you're under anxiety, it misinterprets it as a threat. When you're overstressed, when you have anxiety, you're scared, it interprets it because your body senses harm. So on the flip side, that's what the amygdala does. And this is when it does this to you, what does it mean? It means you're not thinking with your brain. You're thinking with your emotions. So that's what called the amygdala hijack. So it hijacks your sense of reasoning, throws it to the amygdala to decide. And that tells you that the decision it will take at that time will be based on emotions. That is why you do certain things. You tell yourself, I didn't know what was going on in my head. I didn't know what was going on in my mind. It is an amygdala hijack that has just occurred. So you need to master what to do in this situation where you are in a place of mental crisis for decision making. How do you overcome the amygdala hijack? So it tells you that this is the time you need to what? Stop. Stop. Pause. So if you find yourself in that state, you're trying to make a decision, you're confused, your mind is messed up, and you're going to make a decision, especially maybe for some people that experience heartbreak in a relationship. You're crying, you're under pressure. The next thing you want to go and break his car, the windscreen of his car. You need to pay back. So that's amygdala working there. So what it tells you is that stop, pause, clarify, and act. So when you are faced with this crisis in decision making, where you're confused, when you have a lot going on in your head, maybe you've lost somebody dear to you, you're suffering trauma, you are under work pressure, and you want to make your choices, you will come under amygdala hijack, because naturally there are stressors that have been initiated in your body to respond with your emotions. So at this point, you take the 3 steps of stop, clarify. Clarify is asking yourself questions. Is this my next line of action rational? So it helps you. So for people, maybe you're experiencing a very violent relationship. It doesn't have to be at work, at anywhere. And you face that situation and you know that your response could be chaotic. What do? You walk away, you take some time, you reflect, and then you act. So this helps you in your academics too. You're under pressure. You're having several subjects at the same time. You don't know what to read. You don't know what to concentrate your strengths on and your weaknesses. What you need to do is stop, pause, reflect, clarify, then you act. Let's move to the next. So this summarizes the amygdala, what you need to do, the steps you need to take. So stop tells you literally pause. Prevent the amygdala hijack. Breathe. Release yourself. Release yourself from that pressure. Clarify. Define the problem in one sentence. Have you ever found somebody when they've caused a lot of chaos and you ask them what happened? You find out they couldn't tell you anything. If it has happened before, if it happened to you before, just mention it has happened to me in the chat. You could just say it. It's happened to me. You ask them. You understand? So I see a lot of people, yeah, you experience that. You've ranted, you said a lot of things. He came, he broke the door, he scattered everywhere. What was the problem? That's his behavior. That's, he keeps rambling. That's a hijack. So it's important we're able to translate this into problem solving and managing mental crisis, managing chaos, managing adverse situations that would make us make wrong choices. Move to the next slide. Yeah, move to the next. Let's keep here. To the next. Yeah, skip this. Okay, yeah. So because of time, let's move to execution. So execution, which is part 2. So yes, for execution, I said execution is the conversion of decision made to actions. Decisions made, you want to convert it to action. How do you translate? How do you move? Remember, a lot of failures have failed between decision made and action taken. I've explained this a lot earlier. Making a decision does not produce results. It is decision tested via execution that brings about productivity, and in the long run brings about growth. So I'm going to take you through how to master the art of execution. I'll begin with the 90-15 principle. Go up to the previous slide. Let me be sure we're on the right slide. Okay, good. So this is where we're supposed to be. So I'll take us through this. This is me teaching you psychology for free. How to master your brain, manage your body, manage your mind, get the right results, and all of that. Yeah. So let's take a look at this. This is called the ultradian rhythms. The ultradian rhythms. So now, in our body system, how our body functions, there are rhythms that control the circle of our body management, of our body well-being, beyond your natural choices. They are nature that have been embedded in you. I will explain. Everything about creation from the positioning of the moon, the sun, the rotation, the universe, the use of months to define, of days to define months, of weeks to define, using months to define years, using weeks to define months, using days to define weeks, using hours to define day, is systemic. And you must understand, to the point of bringing it to yourself, how do you function within this ecosystem? How are you better productive within this ecosystem? How can you master the operations of the universe to be able to produce and maximize results? Nita, I need to be sure we're on. Can everyone hear me? If you hear
Yes,
me,
we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so it's important that you know your place within this equation. Since you went out, to be sure you're back and everyone can hear me. Can we hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. We can hear you. Please go ahead.
You seem to be out and in. That's what I was asking.
Oh no, I'm trying to plug my device in.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, so it's important that we know our place within the scheme of things, within the universe. What is our place? How are we connected to this mass universe? How are we just an object of accident, or are we supposed to be a vital part of this system? I need the audience to mention in the chat if they hear me, please. Can we hear me? I think I feel I'm alone here.
Okay, we can hear you. I think they're saying they can hear you. They can hear you loud and clear, sir.
What was the problem? You went out, and it's as if at those times I'm unable to. Can everyone hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Even when I'm off stage, we can hear you.
Yeah, but I need the audience to confirm they can hear me on the chat.
Yes, they are confirming. There are comments.
Okay.
That they can hear.
All right, that's fine. Okay, yeah. So I was saying, what is our place within this universe, this vast universe? How do they influence our day-to-day activities? How do we master our place? How do we master our role within this place? So the ultradian rhythms, there's first what we call the circadian rhythm, and that is what makes our body to shut down within every 24 hours. That's what causes sleep. That's why our body, around the clock of 24 hours, your body will shut down at a time to sleep. Now, how that works is not mostly within your control. Yeah, of course, you might choose not to sleep. Like some people like me, you might choose not to sleep very well, but you're actually harming something because the body is built to go through the circadian rhythm cycle. And how that works is that the volume of light that comes into your eyes at different times of the day vary. So when the certain volume comes at night that dims your eyes and you do not respond, you're actually straining something. So that's by the way. The ultradian rhythm, on the other part, what it tells us is that there are different cycles within the 24 hours where we are more productive than others. There are different cycles within the 24 hours, and they run between 90 to 120 minutes. Every day of your life, within 24 hours, there are peak periods for your productivity, and it's within a span of 90 to 120 minutes. So now you'll be asking yourself, how do I know those times? Now it varies by individuals. That's where the place of mastery comes in. And it is something that you would have over time understood yourself. You would have understood that at so time of the day, you are more productive than the others. So the rule tells you that at those times, maximize those times. Maximize those times for critical thinking roles, for critical thinking tasks, because your body will shut down after the 90 to 120. It will break a bit. It will take a break of between 15 to 30 minutes. At that time, your productivity level drops. You're not in control of that. You may not know, but your productivity level per day, within the ultradian reading, it goes around the cycle from time to time. So what do you need to do if you want to execute tasks? The best time to do that, it is within your productive period. The productive period between 90 and 120 minutes. So I need you, for the audience, I need you to put on the chat, tell me what times of the day you think are your most productive hours. What are your most productive hours within the day? It varies from persons to persons. You see, some people very early in the morning, some around afternoon, some maybe late at night. So people have different timings. Just drop your notes there. So that's what the ultradian reading is, mastering the best times for you to take advantage to execute tasks. Let's move to the next. Next slide. Okay, so I'm seeing responses already. So basically, the 90-15 principle came from the ultradian reading rule experience. That's where it came from. You might be wondering, how did they come about 90-15? It's scientifically proven, okay? It is not a guesswork. Along the 24 hours curve, there are 90 to 120 minutes productive time across each cycle. And after those 90 minutes, your productivity level drops by around 15 to 30 minutes. So you need to master what time to give to priority task. That's just what it tells us. Let's move to the next. Okay, so this is an example of a daily for someone. Between 05, that's 5 in the morning, to 9, the person pay more attention to creative strategy, deep work, and peak energy. This is a person's peak energy period. So concentration is that way. Then by 9 to 4 p.m., the person does more of admin, execution, meetings, and sustained tasks. That means at this time, the person's collaborative skill, social skill are more active, while critical thinking skill appears to be more active in the morning. Then later in the day, you see somebody from 1700 to 9, the person does review, input, and reading, then the decline phase. So you see how the cycle, so even within these various readings, there are areas you have your strengths. Your strength could be at that time, maybe for one of the cycles for critical thinking, one could be for collaboration, one could be for what? Reflection. So you need to master your day. So for someone like me, I know when to do certain things. I know when to do my writing. I know when to do office tasks. I know when to do certain things. So I've been able to master how it works for me. I know when to socialize. I know when to take a rest. So this is how I'm able to segment my trading cycle to achieve and to execute tasks. Move to the next. Yeah, so this is the same thing about the between the peak periods, some 23 minutes. So let's move to the next. Yes, so this is a magic rule for me. Of course, you are all aware of the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. This rule has helped my life. And I think I'm glad I learned it very early, which tells you that if you put 20% effort in the most important task, you're going to get 80% results. This is absolutely correct. Absolutely. So it is a flip way. If you put 80% in the wrong things, you're going to get 20% results. So how does this help you in acting, in execution? So, your effort, how do you use your effort? How do you manage your effort? Let me give just some random examples. And this rule has a lot to do with prioritization, how you prioritize things, okay? What comes first to you? And this brings me to my next question, which you can drop your responses on the chat. What are the first 3 things you do when you wake up in the morning? And what are the last 3 things you do before you go to bed? So these things will shape your productivity in life. Because what you start with, have you ever noticed that if you had a proper planner, early hours of the day, you outline your task, your expectations, and at the end of the day, you measure them. Are you aware that you are more productive on such days? That's how it works for me. But if you throw yourself into the day chaotically, as the most, you think you're the sharpest, you have the sharpest brain, you find out that at the end of the day, your productivity level is lesser. So how you're able to take advantage of the 20% on the important things will determine the 80% result you're going to get. And this is not just about your daily task. It has a lot to do with everything. I'll explain some. Now, do you know that the course you choose to study can influence the rest of your life? The course you choose to study in the university. So that 20% can influence the entire of your lifetime. The people you choose to keep as friends can determine the remaining part of your life. The places you choose to go to can determine the outcome of the next phase of your life. The books you choose to read, that's for those who read at all, can influence the rest part of your life. So the choices, the effort you put in that 20% can influence almost everything. So that is the Pareto's principle. And it is, for this one, it may not be you counting measure to 20%, but it just tells you that if you put your effort in the most important thing first, if you act on the most important thing first, at the end of the day or at the end of the cycle, you would have achieved 80% results. So it is up to you on how to apply it. So that is it about the balancing the effort. So with this, I'm going to show us, there's going to be, I think, about 2 videos that are going to come up on how to balance effort and result. Then I'll explain to you after the videos. Nita, let's get to them.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for. You've been searching in the dark, your sweat soaking through the floor. And buried in your bones, there's an ache that you can't ignore. Taking your breath, stealing your mind, and all that was real is left behind. Don't fight it, it's coming for you, running at you. It's only this moment, don't care what comes after. You feel a dream, can't you see it getting closer? Just surrender, cause you feel the feeling taking over. It's fire, it's freedom, it's flooding open. It's a picture in the pulpit and your blind devotion. There's something breaking at the brick of every wall. It's holding all that you know. So tell me, do you want to go where it's covered in all the color lights, where the runaways are running the night? Impossible comes true, it's taking over you. We light it up, we won't come down, and the sun can't stop us now. Watching it come true, it's taking over you. Colossal, we come these renegades in the ring, where the rocks get found, every crown of the circus king. Don't fight it, it's coming for your
7 themes of youth, crime, and redemption into a compelling narrative that speaks to national healing and transformation. Your work reinforces the value of intellectual engagement in service to society. Your dedication and passion to writing is truly inspiring. As already noted, some people have been writing books in their minds, and so already they have been challenged. And knowing that this is your 4th book, I actually commend you for that. I have no doubt that this book will resonate with readers in profound ways. The journey of bringing a book to life is filled with challenges, especially when you mix it with the military job. But your hard work and perseverance has undoubtedly paid off. Within the short period that we have served together in the Department of Defense Training, it is obvious how you have been able to achieve the feat of writing your 4th book, as I know you to be a very hardworking officer that can multitask. And so while you do your work in the office and you do your office work, some of them at home, I also know that maybe in your sleep you're composing your book, because I'm trying to figure out the time.
All right. Thank you for those videos. So what am I trying to explain here? For the first video, what you saw was the behind the scene, the preparation phase for the launch of the book, the one you saw at the beginning. So this is trying to help us connect the Pareto's principle of 20% on the important things gives you 80% results. So behind the scene, there was a lot of work we did. We did a lot of work. What you saw there was planning, was strategy with my team to see that we're able to produce an amazing, world-class event. And we did. And we did so much more. We did so much more because there was already the investment in the 20%. And the feedback you heard was from my boss at the office. And that's to tell you that the time I create for different aspects of the things I'm involved in. So that tells you about balancing. That tells you about balancing professional responsibility, personal responsibility. There's also family responsibility. Then there's also the part of my creative expressions, which is my writing. So how does this happen? So this tells you about a lot about planning, discipline, the culture of excellence, and determination to achieve. So it's important that we understand that nothing happens by chance. Behind the scenes, what did you do? Behind the scene, how is this shaping your mind? How is it changing your reality? How is it altering your perspectives? Very, very important. And for me, why it is more challenging, I mentioned earlier, the nature of what I do does not give me all the time. But within this limited time, there's always the urge, there's always the inspiration to make a difference, to make it count. I could say, yes, I have a job and I'm happy and it ends there. But no, but because there is the desire to bring about change, to impact, to set examples, to show emerging leaders that it can be done, we go all out. So it's important that you master this rule, begin to apply them. I learned this very, very early in my life, and it has shaped everything I do. Input gives you the output. Let's move to the next. Yeah, so this just tells you the no. When you're multitasking, they say it's a myth. There you can. So these rules are not fixed, like you said. Like they said, these are scientifically written, but not all work for me. I multitask and I multitask very effectively. But for some people, this might not work for you because the rule tells you that 40% of productivity is lost when you multitask. But I think for me, it doesn't work. So when I started, I told you most of these rules are there, but it's up to you. What you leverage on the ones you feel will be useful to you. Yeah, there are no notifications about you when you're executing tasks. Keep your phones away. Yeah, that's very important. You don't need distractions when you're executing tasks. You need to focus on a task one at a time, and you need to give all your 100%. So that's what that tells us. Then no unidentified time. So you need to plan your day. We talked about this earlier. You need to put the things you need to do. You need to, so that, because the thing is, there's what we say, they said the bluntest pen is sharper than the smartest brain. The bluntest pen is sharper than the smartest brain. So what that tells you is that the things you write, the things you note, the things you structure gives you better results than you just working without a direction, without a structure. So it tells you you need to put all these things in place when you're planning your day, when you're planning your career, you're planning everything. You show that why it's important is what you do not structure, you cannot measure. You cannot measure success that you did not structure. If I say I want to, from now till the end of this month, I want to save 10,000 naira. I have structured something. Beyond that, I'll tell myself, okay, how do I achieve this? I'm going to save 100 naira each day, for example, to get to that 10,000. But if I didn't put anything down, if I save 2,000 by the end of the year, it's fine. If I save 20,000, it's fine. If I save 1,000, it's fine, because there is no measure. Because what you do not structure, you do not measure. So, and when you do not measure, you cannot tell about productivity or growth. So there must be a system that guides, there must be a system that measures your progress, your results. That is only when you can tell you're growing. So let's move to the next slide. Yes, so this still tells us about execution. I've talked about this earlier. One goal, the 30-day rule, like I said, you want to do this. You want to save 10,000 by the end of the month. 3 routes. How do you want to do this? You want to do this by either saving 10,000 per day, in that per day, in a week, it should give you this amount. So whatever goal you're doing, this tells you can choose 3 routes to that thing. So if I say I want to save 10,000 at the end of the month, what are the 3 things I must put in place? I will say first is that maybe I need to cut down my spending habits. I would tell myself, okay, I need to produce more effort to get more money from, maybe if I'm earning 500 naira today, I'll need to work on my finances that I'm able to earn this per day. Then, okay, if I used to follow this particular friend that makes me spend money, I need to cut that off. So you need to have, put the route. What are the things you must do to get to that one goal, that decision? Then the weekly action tells you how do you review your weekly steps towards achieving this goal at the end of 1 month. So that's the 1 to 3 execution model. Take this seriously too. Thank you. Let's move to the next. Yeah, so smarter goals, this is not new. This is what we're all familiar with. As specific, if you want to pursue something, the specific, define it clearly what you want to do. Measurable, I've talked about it. Make sure what you want to do, you can measure the progress. You cannot say, I want to become the president of Nigeria next year. It is madness. In fact, DSS will come and carry you, because that means you want to kill people or steal to become. So it tells you that you must be specific. This is what you want to do. What are the steps you want to take? They must be measurable. Between this time and this time, this is what I want to achieve. And they must be aligned. They must be aligned with some models will tell you achievements. Yeah, that this should be achievable rather. So it must be achievable. It must be aligned with the main goal. That's the specific goal at the beginning. Realistic. Yeah, you're not a daydreamer. Like I said, you say you want to become the president next year and you are still in 200 level, so it has to be realistic. So time bound, that means it must be within a time frame. So you can't be the president of Nigeria. Yes, you can be time bound. You can tell yourself, okay, in 30 years time, this is my dream. I want to become the president of Nigeria. What do I want to do? What are the measurable steps I need to take? I need to join a political party. I need to be involved in activism at different levels. I need to do this. I need to do that. It must be aligned. So all the activities you're doing must be within the theme of what you want to achieve. Realistic, you need to be truthful about it. If you have only 1,000 at this time, you cannot say you are flying to Miami where they have conventions, political parties. So you just basically, this cuts across everything, it's just you tightening your goals using this model of SMART. Yeah. Let's move to the next. Yes, so this, it was not typically in my slides before, but I put it in because this is very personal to me. These next two items I'm going to discuss, they are very, very personal to me. The spirit of innovation. A lot of things have influenced this for me. If you see beneath, I wrote how I can deliver this result faster, cheaper, and more effectively than the last time. So he also talked about relentless pursuit of better ways, not just different ways. Requires curiosity, experimentation, and tolerance for smart failure. Now, why I say this is personal to me, I think a lot of things for me has influenced this particular character trait. One is my belief system. I love God, I trust God, and I believe in the spirit of excellence and innovation. And I understand God is a creator and he has given us the ability to create. And he has given us an endless mind when it talks about eternity is laid in your heart. So we are in a place where we have endless access to bringing ideas to reality. So how this works for me is wherever I find myself, whatever action I want to take, I want to bring new things. Not just new, in the most amazing ways, in the most unique way. This is personal to me. So this is a behavior or a character you can imbibe in yourself. I heard a long time ago, I think then, I'm saying this came from my belief system, okay? Good. So you could be inspired by something else. That's fine. You could be inspired by your environment, you could be inspired. So it is I'm just talking about my experience. So there was a time I heard about 16 years ago, I was in a meeting, in a Christian meeting, and the pastor was saying something. He said, be a teacher with a difference. Be a soldier with a difference. I caught that word 16 years ago. And I told myself that I am a soldier with a difference. And I told myself that I want to do things distinguishedly. And that has been my mantra. And that has been my pursuit, as long as it's within the framework of rules and regulations. I wrote my first book. I was barely 23. I wrote that book. It was sponsored by then Platinum Bank. I was a young boy. I hosted that book launch at Muson Center. That's the biggest venue in Lagos State as at that time. I was on TV, 23. That's when I wrote my first book. And it was driven by the fact that I do not see myself limited by the system that I function in. I disagreed to be limited. I said I'm going to break the status quo within the framework of rules and regulations. It wasn't common then for soldiers to write books. And of course, a lot of soldiers have written books, but I wanted to do mine in an innovative way. So then I had sponsors, organizations. I had to get approval from the chief of army staff then. I had to get all the necessary things I need and all the support I need as a young boy. So this tells you that you must, if you want to stand out, if you want to do things uniquely, you must be determined to function and operate with the spirit of innovation. That's anywhere you find yourself at any time. Ask yourself, what value do I bring here? Do not see yourself as a mediocre. Tell yourself what value. Your first thing is, what value do I bring here? Don't be among those that will complain, oh, this office, this thing is not well fixed. Oh, don't join people. Don't join the bandwagon of gossiping. Tell yourself, if you see something, what difference can I make here? If the soldiers are complaining they are not eating well, how do you improve things? This is spirit of innovation. Let's move to the next. Yeah, so these are connected. Innovation, character of excellence. That means anything you want to do, you want to do it excellently. When I wrote my book, Omo, in 2018, it was the biggest rave in the literary domain in Nigeria at the time. And I was just a soldier. You know what happened differently? After my experience of my first book, I had limited knowledge of how the book industry works. So, but when I was going to do a comeback in 2018, I did a lot of research. And after the research, I told myself, because I found a lot of writers were not living so well. It's just where they tell you teachers don't make money, writers don't make money. But I told myself, so I said, I want to be rich through writing. So what do? I said, I have this creative. I said, God, you gave me this ability. I needed to be converted to money. So I had to do a lot of research on trying to understand the behaviors of Nigeria, the social system. I needed to understand the book industry, how it works, how profitability works, how scalability works. I do a lot of study. I engage with my civilian friends. I engage with lots of, personal building environments. So I told myself that whatever I'm doing is going to be novel. The book I was writing was Omo, on the girl child. We did a lot of things. We're among the first that did a book trailer, proper book trailer. Anything you've seen now, book trailer you've seen for book, they try to do some stories like a movie before. I was among the masterminds in this country, yes. When you talk about using book as for pool party, I was among the first. In fact, some Europe clubs had to take that initiative because I wanted book experience to be a normal everyday experience. I wanted people. And how did I do the pool party? All you needed to do, you're coming for a pool party, but your access is the book. So you come in, you have things, you enjoy yourself, and then we now engage on the themes of the book in a very flexible and informal setting. Why did I achieve that? I needed to understand behaviors. I needed to understand I did a lot of psychoanalysis. I needed to see how the system operates. I told myself, I'm not going to put my book in the bookstore. I'm not going to let people just walk in. No, I said I was going to do that. And what did I do? We put structures. I employed a number of coppers. We did, oh, no. That experience was, if I talk about that, it's going to take us all through. We sold 10,000 copies within a week. Within a week, 10,000 copies. We had the governor involved. We had the chief of air staff present. We had buzzing everywhere. If you have time after now, Google, just search Alexander Emmanuel Omo. You will see all the results for yourself. So this is about excellence. This is not about being a Superman. This is about understanding the rules of nature and the place you belong within the system. So these two issues I shared now, they are bonuses. I just wanted to share this experience. Move to the next. Yeah, so pathway 3, productivity. So there's not much to say here. Productivity is a result of everything. Move to the next slide. It's a result of everything we've done. So it's like you're saying, if you do an ego show, you understand, ego show. Decision and execution gives you the exponent. That's the cumulative productivity. And what does productivity translate to? Over time, it translates to growth. So this is the summary of everything we've discussed today. Decisions, I've told you how you can make decisions along the decision-making loop, about the 70% rule. I've told you about the amygdala reading. I've told you about the ultradian reading. I've told you about the OODA loop, how these models you can leverage on them in making decisions. And for execution, I've explained to you about, that's where I talk about the ultradian, where you understand the peak periods for you to carry out certain tasks. I've also shared with you the Pareto's principle of execution. I've also shared with you my personal experiences exploiting the spirit of innovation and the character of excellence. So this will be the wrap up for my presentation, and I wait the moderators for questions and interactions. Thank you so much.
Amazing. At this point, I need to put my physical hands together. I need to literally even stand, but I'm not going to be able to do that. So I'm going to be clapping from here. This has been a power-packed, powerhouse moment. My mind is, can we use the comment section? Can we just use the comment section? Because see, I'm becoming speechless. This was so amazing. I was taking notes. I've learned so much, and I would want to read out the comments. I think I'm going to be showing the comments. But first of all, thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Words cannot even do justice to how grateful I am. I personally am. I know we all are, but I am personally grateful. This was so instructive. It wasn't just motivating, it wasn't just inspirational, it was very instructive. It was detailed and it was layered, it was very practical. And that's one of the things that we are trying to achieve with CREP, we're trying to achieve with the Top Queen Academy. And I am so grateful that we were able to listen to. I'm going to share some of the things that I learned. I know everybody has gotten notes, but I'm going to share some of the things that I learned. I learned that how fast you're able to execute the decision determines the success of that decision. How fast you're able to execute the decision determines the success of that decision. I also learned that productivity is a measurement of accumulated executions. I also learned that decisions lead to execution and then productivity. And then the decision-making threshold reminded me of a quote by, I think it was an American president, I can't remember. He said, if you wait until you have 100% of information before you make a decision, you're already late. I can't remember who said it, but that's what the person said, that you're already late, as it were. So you just need 70% information or clarity to be able to make a decision. Then the OODA loop, then the fact that speed is what brings victory in that loop, and that result is produced by decisions that have been tested by execution. So I want everybody to go to the comment section and tell me what stood out for you. What was your wow moment? For me, one of my wow moments, let me tell you guys something. I can you hear me, sir? Are you there? Okay. So he's off stage now, but he can hear me. One of my favorite moments, I mean, about meeting Lieutenant Alexander was when, okay, so let me tell you how we met. We met on we met on an interview panel in Port Harcourt in Rivers State. That was it, I think in 2024. And he shared his experience on that panel session. And okay, before I had already connected with him before that session. And then when I spoke with him, I said, I'm going to be this person's friend. Even if he says, Nita, I'm tired of being your friend, I'm going to say, sir, please don't be tired yet. This is energy drink. This is something for you to drink and still be my friend, because I need this kind of person in my space. So you guys see why. Can you imagine somebody selling 10,000 copies of a book in 1 week? How mind-blowing is that? It's easy to look at it and just think about how mind-blowing it is, how inspiring it is. But can you imagine the level of work that has gone into it? The most mind-blowing thing for me about meeting him that first time is how he's able to achieve so much given the kind of work that he does. If you have somebody in the military, in the Nigerian military, in the Air Force, you know that that's one of the most demanding, arduous career paths a person can ever have. But how are you able to have 4 master's degrees with a military background and still write 4 books? You're on your 6th one. How are you able to do that? So anyway, I don't want to hijack this session because I'm really excited. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to allow us to ask questions. So I'm going to bring him back on the stage. So please, if I were you, I would take this opportunity and ask the questions that have been pining in my heart. All those questions that have been giving me sleepless nights on this particular topic because it's an opportunity that you may not get to have again. So while I'm going to bring him on the stage, I'm also going to highlight some of the key comments that have, taken place while we were having this discussion. And I'm also going to read out the questions that are in the comment section. So I'm just going to bring him on so that he can be on standby to answer questions and display some of the comments. So guys, please put in the comment section your questions. Everybody's thanking you so much, sir. Thank you so much for coming. It was really
My pleasure.
impactful. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you. Yeah, Blessing says connected with live experiences, your lived experiences, your expertise, and your growth from the beginning till today. I'm really, really inspired by you, sir.
Thank
Elizabeth
you. Thank
says,
you.
she says, if you do ego show, ego show, true, true, ego
Interesting.
show, ego show. The first thing, Liberate said, the first thing that wowed me was when he said he has 4 master's degree with a military background,
Okay,
right?
you skip
That was
the
me.
PhD. There's a PhD on top.
I'm telling you, there's a PhD. Oh my goodness, forgive me for skipping that. That was the first thing that wowed me too. I was like, hello, you are what? You have a military background, and how do you have all of these things? And then my favorite thing is he did not just inspire. He told you how he did it. It began with a decision. He said, for every place I am posted to, I'm going to add a degree to that. How cool is that? How challenging is that? How, nerve-wracking is that when you think of the work that has to go into it? So it has been mind-blowing. Blessing Bassi says, I learned about the amygdala hijack. Yeah, that was also another favorite thing for me because, yeah, it was also another favorite thing for me because, recently I've been talking a lot about the responses that we have to threats, fight, flight, and freeze. And it's very important to learn about this amygdala hijack. Mercy says, what stood out for me was that input 20% input in what matters and you will have 80% results. Yeah, yeah. Elizabeth said, I think this stirred up something in me. I've been too laid back for long. Thank you so much, sir. That's amazing. That's amazing. And Mojima said, you did justice to your topic, sir. You did justice to your topic, sir. Okay, so before I read out the questions, guys, we don't have a lot of time. So if you do have a question, now is the time to put it in the comment section. But I do have a question for you. I would like for you to talk a little bit about multitasking. And I'm also
Okay.
very, very grateful. Yeah, multitasking. Yeah, because I'm grateful that you are real. You're not trying to play by the books, and it's very obvious that you don't play by the books. Let me just say that. Very obvious. You don't play by the book. You just find what works for you and you do it. And it gives you exponential results that almost look as if are you human, but you are human. So how are you able to manage multitasking? Because I'm not going to lie, personally, I'm a multitasker, right? Sometimes I'm very efficient at it. And I like it because it gives me the ability to get multiple results without having to postpone things over periods of time or lapses. But there are days when it seems you have all your priorities are crashing down on your head at the same time. How are you able to manage multitasking, knowing that on those kind of days where it seems like, the Eisenhower metric thing, where there's some things are important and urgent all at the same time? How are you able to manage it and not lose the 40% efficiency that researchers say you lose when you multitask? That's my first question. So I'm going to let you answer that.
Okay. Thank you. That's a very, very, very critical question, very important. I think I will say how it works for me is first, there is a place of conviction on what I set out to do. I must have conviction. So I will first define the task themselves. That's each of the tasks. I'll first, or if I want to multitask, for example, I wouldn't multitask on 100 things at the same time. I would sort within the 100 list of things I need to do at the same time. I will sort out those that are most important. So first, there is a place of sorting. So when I sort and I have the priority items that I need to multitask on, I assign timings for them. But some cross. Of course, that's what multitasking does. Some will cross path. While you're trying to write a book, you're trying to submit a report at the office and all of that. So what I do within the matrix of multitasking, I'm also able to do sorting within them. So my multitasking is systemic. It's not spontaneous. It is a guided multitasking I do. For instance, I make a lot of sacrifices with time. And it's something everyone close to me are fighting me for, that I need more rest. Yeah. So, but I think beyond that, I think I have a natural gift of balancing. The only thing I'm unable to balance yet is sleep. I'm still working on that. Yeah, but I think I have a natural gift of balancing things. So if I've sift the things I need to work on, I like giving practical examples. Let's say I'm supposed to make a report at the office. I'm supposed to visit a loved one. I'm supposed to write 3 pages for my book or 3 chapters for my book. And maybe I'm supposed to attend a meeting. These are all contending for my time. So what I do in this case is I would have told myself that within this time, I'm going to plan, maybe as I'm leaving the office, I'll do the visit first. After I do the visit, I get home, I'll allocate time within these various tasks. So I could do up to 10 tasks in a day and achieve them. So that is my own perspective, my own kind of multitasking. I allot times to the various things I have sorted to work on. So I prioritize all the things I need to do. Once I need to shift to the next day, I shift them. But I just do several things within a time frame by allocating timings for them. I could tell myself, if my brain, maybe I've worked for long, I could tell myself, maybe for like writing, writing requires creative energy. I will tell myself 2 a.m. might be the best time I'll wake up to do this. Before I sleep, maybe if it's something that has to do with a review that doesn't require critical thinking, I will allot those times for my off ultradian periods. You understand? So within that cycle, I'm able to allocate what and what I need to do. And really, I think in putting all of this in side by side and working on them, I've always gotten beyond the results that I expect. So there's also the aspect of behavior around me. I think I'm able to convert time to productivity. The things people do with their time that are not productive, I do less of those things. So you might be asking, when do I have time to do this? I'm able to channel those energies to things that are productive. So as a result of that, I'm able to do more within a time frame, between limited time. You heard my boss in the office when he said if he was in my dream, I was writing, that makes me laugh, because he calls me 3 a.m. and I'm working for him, and he's telling me he needs a report by 5 a.m. in the morning. And within that, and I now wake up the next week and tell you I'm releasing a book, and how, where, when, he's wondering. But within all of this, I still allocate time for all of these activities. So I think that's how I'm able to manage. Maybe after now, I'll give you more specific details, but generally, that is how I operate.
All right. Thank you so much. That gives me some clarity. That does give me some clarity. So Liberate asked the question. Her question was about the ultradian rhythm, where we talked about your peak periods and your recovery periods, like the 90-15 principle. So she asked, does this differ sometimes? Like, is it possible that there are some days you don't feel like it, even during your peak hours? That's her question.
Yes. So these things are not fixed, okay? It just gives you an idea of when to invest the most. Of course, there are several factors that affect our moods and productivity every day. For someone who is going through trauma, of course, that is overwhelming enough to suppress your natural cycle. Okay, for somebody who have been overexhausted after a project, it will affect that person's productivity and even motivation for work. So these are unique, experiences. But we're talking in a normal situation where you have control of your mind, you have control of your time. Clearly, you can master those peak periods for your life. Yeah. So, but it can alternate from time to time, depending on other factors, external factors that will influence your well-being or influence your natural flow of events that will also influence your choices.
Awesome.
I need
Awesome.
to be sure if that is clear enough for the person.
Okay. So Libre, please let us know in the comments if that's clear enough for you. Okay. So while waiting for Libre to answer that, so there's a question about the amygdala hijack. So we talked
Yeah.
about the amygdala hijack, and there are three responses that the body uses when it feels threatened. So there's fear, there's flight, there's fight, and there's freeze. Now, what happens when you go into freeze? Because I have had all the experiences. I've had fight, I've had flight, I've had freeze. How do you hijack that amygdala response of freeze, where your body literally freezes and you can't seem to bring yourself to take any action in the moment? I think you would know better on this. I mean, given your occupation, so maybe tell us about that.
Yeah. So the part of freeze, it is an overwhelming shock that even affects how you respond. An overwhelming shock that keeps you at the spot. The part of flight, what does it do to you? You want to escape that, you want to leave that environment. You're escaping from harm. Then fright is fear, something that causes fear to you. Then freeze, it's something overwhelming that puts you stuck at a spot that even like shuts down your brain on on how to respond. So what you do is these things come with mastery, okay? And it's not something, first there's the place of self-awareness. If you master self-awareness, you are able to understand what is happening to you part time. So if you've understood maybe from previous experiences that you freeze at this kind of stimulus, you freeze at such stimulus. So what you do, you would have been able to devise across the principle of stop, clarify, and act. You would have devised how you're able to manage, or how will I put it, how to tweak to get out of that place that will keep you in that position for a very long time. When we explain these things, we explain them in general terms. We have our own unique experiences. For someone, it could be a music that could take the person out of that place. For someone, it could be just a physical push. For somebody, it could be a memory, a memory of an event that motivates the person, that brings you out of that place. So you need a lot of mastery of self-awareness on how you have responded in different scenarios, and identify what particular activity can take you out of that place, to give you opportunity to be able to stop and to pause, to clarify and to act. So I think that should answer that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, sir.
Except you want to be specific about your freeze experiences or your freeze moment.
Okay.
If you want to be specific,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I'll give an example. Mostly I respond with fight or flight. In fact, mostly so there was an instance of a robbery incident that I was involved in, and my mind, when it happened around 1:30 a.m. in the night, and I think in that moment the first thought that came to me was I was with my sister and my friend, and I just kept thinking bad things are going to happen to us. I mean, these guys can rape us, and I don't want that to happen. So I think somehow my amygdala found a way to work with my state of judgment at that point, because the first thought was I have to find a way to protect them. So I didn't
Mm-hmm.
freeze. I didn't like, I found a way to move them away. That was my predominant thought. So it was not a freeze
Mm-hmm.
response. And I think I
Mm-hmm.
did that because I felt responsible for other people. But then there was a time that I was coming out of a building. This is another illustration. I'm just walking out of this building, and then this very reckless driver almost runs over me. I was with my sister, and I'm telling you that I froze in that moment. The car was seconds away, and I just literally froze. My sister pulled me out of the way. So
Mm-hmm.
that's a rare case of me freezing. I don't often freeze,
Mm-hmm.
but that situation made me wonder, what if nobody was there, what would have happened, and how could I have done better? So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's an example.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's the unique experience of freeze. I think in that kind of scenario, because most times when you have that hijack, you do not have full control, and in this situation, you are actually facing real time, and you froze in that situation. So I think what you need to do in this kind of situation is, if you have had similar experience before, like you had now, you need to start working on something on how to process such experiences in your mind and think of the most effective way that will take you out of that kind of reality, of that kind of scenario. Because most times it is not as black and white as we say it. Like it's not like something when you are in that situation, it's different. So, but you need to plot your own rescue mechanisms, in those kind of situations. If maybe from your last experience that happened and you froze, you understand, you can start thinking, okay, if this happens next time, if I see a car coming, the next thing I'll do, either I fling myself out of that out of that direction. So already you've created a pre-response. You understand? So this is how the mind works. So you must have been able to, you need to be self-aware of this experience, be self-aware of this limitation that you have, and then you create a premeditated response in case of future occurrence. So that helps, gives you a consciousness of response. So it helps you already put in the memory of your brain thinking on how to respond. So there is already a connection between your brain thinking and your emotional thinking based on experience. So there will be a response that will come that will require you to move out of that space at that time, because you've created a program in your memory pathway. There's a program of how you have defined how this response should be at a particular time and at a particular scenario.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I think I'm going to do that. And I think it's going to work. I mean, I'm already imagining it because we can actually pre-program ourselves.
Yes,
Yes,
you can.
for things that have not
Yeah,
happened yet. So yeah, I'm gonna try that.
yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. So
You're
Good Luck
welcome.
has a question for you. She's asking, is it really a good thing to experiment in your 20s? I'm not sure which of the faculties this falls under, but I mean that's the question. Is it really a good thing to experiment in your 20s? I think the question might be coming from the aspect where you do different things. You're a poet, you're a writer, you're in the Air Force, you have a love for education, and you pursue your academics regardless of how difficult it is with everything you're doing. So she's asking, maybe she's in her 20s, is it really a good time, a good thing to experiment during your 20s?
Okay, yeah, that's a very good question, and I'm happy it's referring to the younger people. So I think what happens is, in your 20s, you must have what we call the mainstream. Now, the mainstream has to do with the way a tree is. A tree has a branch, and then it has various branches. It has a stem. Then the stem carries various branches. Now, the stem is the mainstream. The branches are other things connected to that mainstream. So in your 20s, you must have clarity of your most convinced. There must be a major conviction where other experiments can rely on. In my case,
My main is my military service. Every other thing grows on this main. So in experimenting, you must have a mainstream. So you must have a pathway where every other thing can grow on. So you don't experiment chaotically. You experiment on a thing. You don't experiment on a vacuum. You must experiment on a thing, something existing. So it's either I'm a student first. If I'm a student first, what am I doing with that time as a student? So you can't just have everything, give them equal priority. There must be the one that is the mainstream, while every other ones rely on them. So that the mainstream will be protected at all costs, while every other thing can fail and you can fall back to the mainstream. Otherwise, if you give everything equal chances, if one fails, it might affect every other thing. So that's why the mainstream must be protected. I need
Amazing.
feedbacks. If the person needs more clarity, I could respond. But that's
Yes.
general.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. Good luck if you understood that, if that clearly defined or answered your question. Rather, let us know in the comments. So, I think from everything you've said, you have emphasized over and over again, reiterated the importance of structured growth. Everything must have a structure. In fact, it must have a frame. There must be a frame that's holding it so that it's not haphazard, it's not sporadic or spontaneous. So
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Good luck says that answers our question. So, sir, if people do want to connect with you beyond here, is that something that is possible, perhaps on social media? I think social media is really the way people connect to people these days. So, yeah, uh, are you available on social media, and would you like for people to reach out to connect with you?
Yeah, I'm open to connections, social media, sure. I believe you have my profiles.
Yes, 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 I do. So I can share it later with them, right?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, all right. Thank you so very much, sir. I am really grateful.
Thank
Guys,
you.
please let's send all our love to our mentor so that when you invite him next time, he will come. Use the comment section now and tell him how happy, how happy and how much you don't take this for granted, because I don't take it for granted. I really, really, really don't. Like, this is like my favorite session, and I don't say that. I never, and I don't think I'm going to say that again. So nobody will quote me and say I favorite, but this has been very, 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 very dear session to my heart. I learned so much, and it's very practical. And I thank you so much, sir. And I look forward to having you again. This recording will be available to you after this session, so you can look over it, and then you and I, of course,
Hmm.
will talk after now. So thank you so much. Do you have any last word for us?
Basically, I think I had a great time here, and I'm happy I'm able to make add value, and I thank you for the opportunity of sharing my thoughts and understanding my experience matter. It means a lot to me. So I think my last words for everyone here is just take note of everything I said and try to build a culture of excellence. And it starts with a lot of things. It is not something you do blindly. A lot has to do with your belief system, your habits, your level of discipline, and your conviction. Hold on to these things very strongly. All of everything I shared today are just to give you leverage to define your own reality. So this is you having an open check to make your life count. So I wish you the best, and we'll connect and we'll talk more. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. Thank you so much for coming. We're so grateful. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So I will step out now.
All right, sir. Thank you. All right, guys. That was an amazing session. Am I the only one that didn't want it to end? Guys, okay, so here's what's gonna happen. Before my excitement gets the best of me, I'm just gonna say that that was an amazing session. Congratulations to everybody who joined in, and a very big sorry for those who missed it, because this session is not going to be made available for them. So what I'm going to say is, please, after this conversation, go on Facebook. There's something I've noticed. Let me say it now. Don't leave the call. Please don't leave the call. I'm noting those who are still on the call, so please don't leave the call. There's something I've noticed. We don't talk about what we're learning on social media. I don't remember making a rule that you mustn't share what you're learning. If you think CREP is changing your life, why aren't you talking about it? Why aren't you caring about it? When you find somebody that is something that's good and you're not supposed to share about it, talk about it, after this session, that's the one way you're going to show me that you have repented and you have a change of heart. You're going to go on social media, go on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and the rest, and you're going to talk about what you have learned so far. Can you guys hear me? Am I still audible? Am I still audible? I just switched my ears, my headset, so I just want to know if I'm still audible. Please let me know in the comments if you can hear me. All right, thank you, thank you. So go on social media, share your takeaways. What is going to happen is that after now, I'm going to drop the the pictures of the session of the faculty. Okay, so go share your key takeaways on today's session, yesterday's session. We're going to drop everything you need. In fact, if we don't, ask us around just for those things. We'll send them to you. Then tag the Talking Academy and use the hashtag CREP. It's that simple. We can even send it to you after now. So thank you so much for coming, and I'm grateful. I enjoyed myself. You can tell now. I mean, I'm all smiles. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you to everybody who showed up. You're welcome. I see all your thank yous. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope you make the most of it. God bless you, and I will see you in the next session. Bye.